Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video we're going to be talking about the Andor series, Obi-Wan Kenobi and more. So without much further ado and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. So we begin with Cassian Andor, and Bespin Bulletin have revealed some really big details for the Rogue One spin-off series. According to their sources, Mud Troopers and Death Troopers are going to appear in the show. They start by saying the following: we're now just a small number of weeks away from Star Wars Celebration, where we'll be getting some new information for the upcoming Andor series and hopefully a trailer or some footage of the show. In anticipation, Bespin Bulletin are now sharing some small pieces of information, and one of them has not only got a connection to Rogue One, but also Solo: A Star Wars Story. And before they get into it, they tease this is just one of a couple of reports regarding Andor that they're going to share before Celebration. So there is another one that's going to follow, but in either case, in this one my dear friends, they state that listings for Mud Troopers in the series appeared on IMDb a couple of weeks ago, and so they reached out to several sources connected to the production, and they seem to have confirmed that this listing is accurate. And in addition to this, there are going to be some Death Troopers, and while they don't know much about the Death Trooper scenes, it's believed they were used when filming in Little Marlow, and these troopers were seen alongside officers in white, Imperial officers. So they say that while fans will assume that this means a director Krennic appearance, they haven't heard of any sighting of Ben Mendelsohn, although I would say he's pretty much a certainty for this series, and there have been reports that state Krennic is very much a big part of this show. Now what I will say is that it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise that we're going to see Death Troopers. And one lingering question that I have is a possible connection to the Bad Batch. After season 1's initial episodes, a lot of fans wondered if Crosshair was the original Death Trooper, and skip forward to the end of season 1 with the final 2 emotional episodes, it's up in the air where Crosshair's future lies. He says he wants to stay with the Empire, but it's very clear he's conflicted. If he does indeed remain and becomes one of the first elite Death Troopers, then imagine if we see him or even hear his voice in Star Wars Andor. This wouldn't be the first time a connection between the two shows has been made, given that the Bad Batch's second season is set to have a time jump, so we're going to be well into the Imperial era, and with rumours that Andor and the Bad Batch season 2 are going to overlap in terms of schedule, there could be some connections within the story itself. This is just speculation though, let's wait and see, but at face value, this is great news. Mud Troopers and Death Troopers in the same show, kind of like a marriage of both spin-off films. And so now my dear Mandalorians, it's once again time to talk about the Kenobi series. There are not going to be many spoilers, nothing really pertaining to the plot, just a few words from Deborah Chow, Entertainment Weekly, and Hayden Christensen. But before we talk about any of that, we do have a new promotional image for the series. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi himself in lightsaber combat, and one thing that I noticed is that his physical appearance is very reminiscent of Kamino Obi-Wan from episode 2. Not the clothing, obviously, but I'm talking about the hairstyle and his stance. So we're now just 16 days away from Kenobi, just over 2 weeks, and there's a lot of talk in the fandom. I think we're all hyper aware of the importance of this show. I don't think it's any secret to anyone that this series really needs to deliver in a big way. I've definitely been on the more optimistic and hopeful side of things when it comes to the plot leaks and trailers, and overall, from everything I've seen and read, I genuinely hands down think that Kenobi is going to be a solid story that's going to fit in really well between episodes 3 and 4, and of course one of the most important aspects of the show overall is that it's got to stay true to the continuity of the saga. In other words, you need to be able to go back and rewatch the films in chronological order and have the Obi-Wan Kenobi show feel right between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. It can't stand out as a sore thumb in the sense that it can't break any canon, and Deborah Chow is very much aware of that. And this is something she's opened up about in a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly. In particular, the director spoke about the process of working certain details from the prequels and original trilogy into the Kenobi show, so it all kind of fits together nicely as one big story. And I've got to be honest guys, as with every interview that Deborah's given so far, her response was not only reassuring, but really insightful, giving us fans a glimpse into her creative process. So she began by comparing Kenobi to her experience directing on The Mandalorian. She notes that she felt it was her duty and responsibility to the Star Wars universe to work with already existing canon. For Deborah, that was focal, respecting the overall universe that the story exists in and not breaking that canon or doing anything that could adversely affect it. But don't take it the wrong way, because respecting the canon also means you can add to it and expand the existing lore. So with regards to the material across various mediums, Chow made it clear that she didn't want to, quote, just retread or do the same thing again. She wants to keep the story fresh while also respecting what's come before it, and Chow admitted that much like Robert Rodriguez, and to a greater extent Tamara Morrison on the Book of Boba Fett, anytime she had a question about Star Wars canon, she went straight to the man himself, Dave Filoni. And while Dave didn't have any direct involvement in this show, he is the executive creative director of Lucasfilm. So let's take a look at the full quote from Deborah Chow. You want to respect the canon, but you also want to have your own voice in the canon, and you don't want to just retread or do the same thing again. So there were definitely people that were extremely helpful. Lucasfilm has a great team that helps support that. And this is the part I spoke about, but I would say Dave Filoni was very pivotal for me, both in terms of The Mandalorian and in terms of the Star Wars of it all, as well as Jon Favreau. But Dave was also a touchstone and remains a touchstone for me in this series. Anytime I had a question about canon, I go to him. And then Deborah goes on to note one aspect of the canon she finds particularly interesting, and that to her was Anakin's fall to the dark side. She teases that the series is going to explore how Vader still faces that internal conflict, and certain elements of Anakin's personality reside at this very early stage. If you remember a few weeks ago, she talked about this. She said how Vader in this show is not the fully developed Vader that we see in the original trilogy. Rather, at this stage, he's, quote, between trilogies. And now in this interview, she speaks about how much of a dark time it is, not just for Obi-Wan but also for Vader. At this point, both for him and for the galaxy, it's quite a dark period. And that actually made it really interesting to be telling a story in this period. It's a time where the Empire is ascending. It's post Order 66, so most of the Jedi have been killed, and a lot of them are being hunted by the Inquisitors. So it's a very dark time to be a Jedi, and most of them are hiding or dead. So for him, at this point 10 years later, we're dealing with post-Order 66 after Anakin, who he believes he killed, and then all of his friends. Everybody's sort of gone or hiding, so it's a tough period for Obi-Wan. And finally, Deborah Chow teases the other villains of the show, the Inquisitors. She reveals the reason she brought them into the series is because this point in the timeline is all about the Inquisitors tracking down Jedi, so she had to include that in the Obi-Wan show. Really exciting stuff. And speaking of doing justice to what's come before and after, canonically speaking, Hayden Christensen has now confirmed that the lightsaber combat in this show is going to be very similar to Revenge of the Sith. Very intense, fast-paced, and epic. Kind of like a Battle of the Heroes Part 2. And we know that Hayden and Ewan are excellent with a lightsaber. This is going to be truly amazing. And so finally, my dear friends, we have a new photo. The press tour has begun for the series, and this was taken in Berlin yesterday. Posted by the official German Disney Plus Instagram account, we see Deborah Chow on the left, Ewan McGregor, Moses Ingram who's playing Reva, and of course, Hayden Christensen on the right. They look incredible, and I love Moses' outfit. As I say, just over 2 weeks to go. We're going to have so much news following Star Wars Celebration, and also the Kenobi series. What a time to be a Star Wars fan. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and a massive welcome if you are. But until the next one, guys, may the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.